My first NDE happened when I was around 7.5. So my life changed in a really early age. And I was a victim of violence. And I'm not the only person. And so I don't talk about like a lot of the details because there are still people healing from this whole ordeal. But what's important is the near-death experience and how I think it had meaning for me and changed my life and led me to research NDE and find out other people's stories. So at 7.5, I was in one day a victim of violence. And during this time, I left my body, I died. And I remember kind of a swirly feeling from my body. And I came up out of my body, and there was a flow of energy. It was just like a straight, like a corridor, and it took me into this tunnel. And the tunnel was like dark black and blues, and I saw light at the end of it. I felt like someone was with me, but I didn't see anyone or talk to anyone. And it was really fast. It was just a fast transition. And when I got outside the tunnel, oh my God, it was just light, this bright, beautiful light. And I felt the deepest love. And I had had moments before this NDE of having STE, spiritually transformative experiences, where you are gifted with love from the universe, or a guide or a guardian will talk to you. And so you get the essence of the love that's carried by these angels and archangels and being and what's on the other side. But those were moments. This was like everything just opened up and I was in this place of love. And I knew this was my origin. I knew that this was who I was, who we all were. At 7.5, you have very limited vocabulary, and life experience. But when you're on the other side, you don't have the human mind. You have the mind of consciousness. So you have all your wisdom. You have all the knowledge of consciousness, which is what we're from, which is where we are. They say we are a drop in the ocean. And if you've ever looked at a drop of water in a microscope, it is just the coolest thing because it's like filled with all these things, and you go, I don't know, but it's kind of cool to watch them like move around and, but that's who we are. And you go, so I am this in this physical body. And then I leave my body and I'm still this drop of water and it goes into consciousness. We become one with everything. It's in that moment, could I comprehend that? No, and it didn't occur to me. I'm talking about it now because that is a concept that comes to people through these experiences of NDEs and even STEs. So I felt I was in my origin and I was aware because I wasn't restricted by my physical body and I wasn't restricted by the human mind. And what happened is a lot of people talk about seeing people, people that they know in spirit. That did not happen for me. Everything was energy and colors. I saw it was the most extraordinary colors, more colors than what I've ever seen on the earth plane. And when I was a kid, I just was mesmerized by how you could take a crayon and write on a piece of paper and leave this trail of color to the point where I was doing that everywhere. Yeah, even where I shouldn't have been. But it was just like oh, look at this. So color was like this thing for me of interest when I was a child. And so I was just like, I don't even know what all these colors are because they're something I've never seen before. And so with this color, you saw that it was all energy. That's how I saw everything. It was just frequency. And so it had a motion to it. Everything is vibrating like this, and everything that vibrates has this color and it has a sound. And the sound, at first, when I got there, the sound was very low. I had to like, lean in and go, what? What? But not with like a question, just with awe of wanting to understand and take in what I was taking in. So it was different than like when you ask a question on the earth plane, it was like just trying to absorb everything. And so what happened from there of this experience of being in this, introduction of the other side was I was taken to where I was given a life review. And when I say being taken, it's sort of like evolved that it was where I was at. It's sort of things just kind of because everything's energy and everything's changing, it just sort of evolved into all these colors kind of going together and becoming very white, very yellow, very gold, and other shades of things, and then starting to get a life review. And that is when you are told about what you have said to other people or to your animals, your animal companions, or to friends, parents, yourself, and the consequences of what you say to these people. Like, for example, I was very victimized. And so what was addressed was the pain and the suffering and the terror, absolute terror that I lived with all the time. Because when you are a victim of attack, it's like you can't really ever really relax. I didn't feel that on the other side, except for in moments. And I felt like it was as if, plucking a chicken, you take the feathers off and it's gone. It's like, and each feather was a terror. Each feather was not understanding why someone was treating me the way they were treating me. And I went through this in a matter of, I don't know, there's no time on the other side. So it seemed like seconds, and then they started to talk about the people that were causing harm. And there were two that were fairly significant as the perpetrators. One was totally psychotic and had absolutely no idea of what he was doing. And I get emotional because it's still such a active topic because I work with people that are survivors of NDE and survivors of abuse and violence. So it's never like it's always a fresh feeling. But the perpetrator, this one particular one that was psychotic and had no knowledge, absolutely no knowledge of what he did to other people. He had been so abused and so terrified and so, pardon me, broken as a child himself that he was incredibly splintered. And our mind, when we are traumatized, to help us cope with a situation, it will bury what has been done to us. And it buries it so we can survive with the situation that we're living in. And that's exactly what was going on with this man. Now, in my NDE, if you've ever gone to an amusement park and you're in this room, like the fun house, and they have a room with lots of mirrors, and so you look like you see like you're upside down here, and you see like half your face here, and a leg and an arm, and it's like you're all these splintered people all over this fun house until, and you're going, well, where am I really? You know, I had that experience, and it was that I was so shattered at that young age. And during this time, they were plucking the feathers that I wore as the chicken, of plucking these moments where I was so shattered. Pardon me. And when that happens, it's like they're taking the trauma. I had a glimmer of it, and I lived with terror, absolute terror. I was so shut down. I remember walking to school and really feeling that I was outside of my body, and not knowing if I should talk to myself or what, or would I be my own friend, or, you know, what was this about? But, you know, and so I would trip a lot. Because I wasn't in my body, my spirit and soul, my energy of my being had been so traumatized that I wasn't in this physical body totally. I wasn't grounded. So I was out here. And while I was going through this experience of these moments being taken away from me, you know, so I would see them, I could feel more energy coming into me as if I was regaining my spirit and my soul. And I've seen this. I've seen this in me. I've seen it in clients when we get splintered, and we survive because a lot of what we went through is buried so we can cope. It takes a lot of energy to hold that down. And so we have less vitality. We have less presence. And presence is something that is like so important. We so need to be present to experience the world so we can know ourselves and know others. And you know, that's taken away when we are a shattered psyche, when we are, and depression also is a result of that. Not depression isn't, of course, always from someone violating you or violence. It is internal, and there are so many other aspects of what depression is. But for what my experience was that I'm sharing with you about being a victim, so much of my body energy was holding all these things down. So it was like I had these moments of feeling the terror, feeling the pain, feeling just rage. What was I processing them? Not in the way you usually process things like in workshops and therapy, but I had that moment where I became aware of it and it was gone. And had I gone through this on the earth plane at 7.5, I wouldn't have understood it, because I was so void of knowing my terror, you know, knowing my pain, knowing my rage, knowing the worthless feeling that you live with when you are violated by someone, the feeling of nothing is worth it. Why bother do anything, because I can't achieve anything. I can't even, you know, get through a day feeling safe. You know, all those things and the good things that you're missing started to come up, like feeling safe. So my NDE, safe, comfort, trust. What? How could that be in my life at all? You know, and it's about, well, this is what started to change me forever. It's not about trust for the earth plane. It's about the trust of God and the trust of the spiritual journey and the trust of the lesson. Wow. That's when I went, this is the real journey. It's not about sandcastles and my dog and, going shopping with my mom. And, it's not all those things, but it is those things on the earth plane. But really, what it's about is our spiritual path. And that for me, my journey was to develop my faith and my trust and my understanding. Okay, what does that mean? And that means surrendering so you can be in that place to accept these things. And I think that I was told that several times, because by the time you get back to the earth plane and get into the daily life of your dog and your dolls and, wanting chocolate chip cookies and, the separation of what the life is on the earth plane and the spiritual journey, the spiritual laws. How do you blend these? It's it's kind of like eventually things start to weave as we use discernment, which we're given to go to the earth plane, and as we get in touch with what our real desire is. And that's hard because we so often live for other people, other things. Just an example is I cannot tell you how many clients I've had that have gone through college and go, I'm just miserable. I became a lawyer for my dad. I became a doctor for my mother. I hate these jobs and I hate who I become in them, but I don't know who else I am. So they know there's something wrong with them because it doesn't align with who the truth of their spirit is. And so their journey becomes, well, who am I? And who am I without this pressure of living my life for someone else? And that is hard at times because sometimes people are told, well, you don't do what we want you to do, and you won't be our son, you won't be our daughter, we won't leave you the family money. That's a big pressure for a lot of people, and that that is part of the earth plane. That's our spirit is our faith and trust. Money really comes from our feeling of self-worth and self-esteem and God consciousness. So it's a concept I don't think a lot of people really understand, but that really is, I believe, the truth. Anything I say is my belief, and people can take it or leave it. They have to figure out what's right for them. We're all on, that's the other thing, we're all on our own spiritual journey, and we all go through different situations and different rationale and different studies. But the one thread that is so important and so meaningful is that everything is about love. And it's not sexual love. It's not, I'll love you if you do this for me. It's about, I love you unconditionally. I love you as the origin of what we are, which is from my spirit, from our spirit. And that's really the biggest lesson for all of us. So what I learned was a sense of understanding and compassion for particularly this one abuser. But I had other abusers. My abuse and my being a victim of bullying went through grade school, junior high, and high school. And I can't say it stopped there, it continued. So, at one point I thought, was I Attila the Hun in another life? And it doesn't work that way. But, it was that feeling of, oh, what a bumpy ride I chose. And that's the other thing I learned. We do choose our life. We choose our goals. We personality characteristics that are going to rise to the surface. We choose our family. We are part of a tribe. We're part of a soul group. And when we incarnate, some of our soul group comes with us, and some of it stays on the other side. Some of it doesn't. And some journeys, it's like, for the longest time, I was like, I feel so alone. Well, what they told me is that you do have part of your tribe on the earth plane, but you're not going to really be around them. Just know that you've got, connections to consciousness in physical bodies here. And that was like an understanding and a lesson for like it's school, because when you're young, you want friends and I had friends until I went to school, and I didn't know that what I went through wasn't what everybody went through. I had been, threatened. I couldn't tell people about the violence and the victimization and the physical violations that I was going through. And some of it did get buried. And when I would get to school, it would just block out. Unfortunately, that was something that stayed with me all my life. So I would later on have events to go to, and my mind would block it out. And I started to learn, well, part of me, an aspect of me that was still sort of splintered and buried, was afraid to go to a place where there were groups because I wasn't sure of my safety. And, there were always little threads that came back to what was this shut door that didn't let me experience and explore life. And I'm not, that's not an uncommon issue for anyone that has been victimized, exploited, bullied, all of those things. It's just not, that's very common. The residue that we live with is a lifetime job of discovery, especially when it starts so young, because we're so vulnerable and we learn so quickly, which means that we take in and, we think this is the way it is, and we have to learn, well, it is, but not with everybody and not all the time. So where am I going here with this? Oh, I'm talking about the life review still. My life review was very psychological. It was really about behavior. And learning, like I said, learning the compassion, learning that we come down into the earth plane with soul groups, tribes. And here's one thing, and I give this to everyone because so many people were bullied. The group of people, often you're bullied by a group of people at school. It's not just one person, but it's two or three, and they're the same tribe. That's why they align. And it's like people, I've had clients over the years ago, I tried so hard to have them be my friend, and it's like they weren't going to be because they don't resonate. They're not the same frequency. They're not the same background. They're not the same. And if you were in that group, you would be so uncomfortable because that's not your origin and it's not your path. When we learn that, we can let go of so much. And when that separation is created, we're free because we're not clashing. We don't draw each other to us. And I'm not saying that a victim is always the one creating the problem. It is so not. They are truly victims. But there is something in the victim lesson, spiritual lesson, that allows for this to happen. And as you reclaim yourself, and as you find who you are, and as you surrender to who you are, that victimization stops. And it's a tough one because who at 5 or 7 or 9 years old wants to go, my thirst for life and my dedication is consciousness? There was nothing in school about that. I mean, some religious schools would have religious classes, but religion and spirituality aren't the same thing. They're just not. So, it's like, where did anyone get that. But that's what I was talking about. So I went to school and I thought, well, so I finally had this experience and maybe I'll bond with someone that's kind of like on the outside, but we're casual friends at school and sometimes we are at the same parties. So I said, well, I met God and I see dead people now. Well, that was just disaster because a few minutes later, someone came over and went, "You're creepy, and I never want to have you talk to me again. Stay away from me." And I was like, "What's the problem?" And so she mimicked what I had said to this girl, and I was like, "Oh, I'm just kidding, teasing, bad joke, I guess. Sorry," but it's too late. And so I learned that, well, not everyone goes through this. It's not a rite of passage like joining the Brownies or the Girl Scouts. You know, it's just okay. It's all right. It's just, but it's what made me different. And so I became where I had friends, I became extremely isolated. And my guides were my friends. And that actually made more sense in the long run because they couldn't understand me and started teaching me what had happened to me and what was going on with me. Because I did come back seeing color around people's bodies. I did see auras and I did see out of body spirit. And I did have alien encounters. Not during my NDE, but afterwards, because I was open up to the spirit world and the astral plane and other dimensions. And, a lot of these shut down because I was like overwhelmed. But then I started to understand what some of these things meant, and what they were about. So it was training me when I came back about my senses, the touch and sight and clairvoyance, clairaudience, psychometry, clairsentience, all of that. From the life review, I was taken to see choirs. There were these most amazing choirs, and they were all energy. I didn't, it was like just this array of colors, like on tiers, it seemed like, because some were big and some were, it was just like all like this big, beautiful mountain of vibrating color and sound. And some of it was just harmonizing. Some of it was to the glory of God. Some of it was musical instruments. It blew me away. It was like I heard clarinets and flutes and drums and sax and trombones and piccolos. And I was like, where are they? It was that the vibratory rate of the energy could produce those sounds. And if you read about sound, even on the earth plane, they're like, well, there's not really a male and female voice. We do that to give structure to so people can understand sound. That's why we have coloratura and first soprano, second soprano, alto, tenor, bass, all these other names for range of sound so people can understand it. But on the other side, it's just sound. It's just you find the resonance of what you want to create. And it's kind of like you pull it out of yourself because you have all the information. And so you can become a piccolo, you can become a flute, you can become a guitar. I mean, it's extraordinary. And then I heard this one, oh my gosh, this one choir. And it was like, what is this? It was every language and dialect on earth, all singing together. And it was all about love and joy, and nothing was dissonant. Everything was just this beautiful harmony. Nothing made you go, whoa. It wasn't, there's some composers that you go, oh, well, it wasn't, everything was just all about harmony and coming together. And it was just extraordinary. And I realized, when I said earlier, I had these moments of being on the earth plane and hearing these choirs before I was 7. that's one of those STE, spiritually transformative experiences I had, where I remember I was on the porch of my parents' home, and I was looking at Babar books. I love Babar. Do you know the Babar books? Yeah, they're just, I just always love them. And I was looking at one of those, and it was just one of those quiet moments. And pardon me. And then all of a sudden, I heard one of these choirs. And I remember just sitting there listening to this most beautiful angelic sounds that just, and it was male and what I would consider on the earth plane, male and female voices, because we do that here. And it just took me away. It just took me to that place of love. And it was just extraordinary. And I have to interject this because, working with a lot of people, and I'm a moderator for Ned Mantinia's near-death experience site. You know Ned, right? Yeah, he's just an extraordinary man that has done so much to bring people together, and the site is amazing, and it is like the largest NDE group in the world right now. And so in reading and about people's submissions and comments and everything, so often there are people that have come back from the NDE and say, I just don't want to be here. I want to be back with that love. Life is hard. And it just breaks my heart for them because they are holding on to how this journey is not okay because it's not the other side. Well, it's not, but we can have that love here. We need to work on it, and we have to let go of, it's horrible here. I wish I wasn't here. I can't wait to go back to the other side. I don't even want to live. I get that a lot. All those things shut the door for us receiving the love that is so available to us. As a child, and this was before 7, so, I went from Babar to the glory of God and the love and the healing that is there for us. And every person that, if you've had an NDE and you're resisting it, just let go and know that you can have that because it's in you. That's the thing. Everyone's like, well, I want to feel that love and I won't feel it until I go back over. And it's like, no, that love is in you. It's your spirit. That's your origin. And if you have all these, I call them irrational judgments of things that push away the love, the only thing that's real on the earth plane, you're going to be so far away from feeling comfortable with all of this that we can have the love here. So I give that to all the people that have had NDEs, and I give that to the people that haven't had an NDE but want to experience that love. You can. You so can. You just have to surrender, and you will feel it. You will feel it, and it will come up. It's just like the miracle of healing. I've seen people with illnesses that they were supposed to have forever, and all of this, and all of a sudden those illnesses get released, and it is the desire to have the experience. It is knowing that and asking for it, you can have these healings happen. And it is putting the faith and trust that it will happen, knowing it will, as you can receive it. I get people saying, well, I keep praying for healing and it's not happening. And it's like, yeah, you have to give yourself permission to heal. You have to know that you can do that, that you're worthy of that. And usually there's some band-aid over a wound, energetically, that's keeping them from saying, yeah, I can heal. I can be whole. I don't have to live with this illness. I don't have to live with this unless it's part of the karma. But we can find that out, the person can find that out. But it's surrendering to it and saying, this is the truth I want to know. And if we ask for that, it is given to us. We just have to get out of our way so we can hear it, if that makes sense. So I learned with these choirs, I also learned that I had been a part of these choirs. I was just so at home. I was like, I related. I knew I was there. I was a complete sound bath on the other side. I mean, it was just like, yeah, I'm here. I get it. I get it. And I've had other moments where I've had these hearing the choirs come down to earth, and I go, when we have these quiet moments, and when we really want to explore consciousness, whether you call it God consciousness or whatever you call it, if it's the all, it's there for us to experience because that's who we are. We're a part of that. So allowing yourself to have these quiet moments so you can experience it, I think is just incredibly important, because we learn so much, we heal so much, and we learn so much about who we are without words. We have a whole vocabulary of sounds and silences, and it's all us. It's amazing. Another thing that I learned on the other side. Now, I'm from a very Christian family. God was always important to me, and Christian background, Christian missionary background on one side of my family. And I was told reincarnation was real. And I was like, what? Excuse me? Really? How does that happen? Well, it makes so much sense when you think about it. If we're aspects of this huge, massive, energetic alignment that is about wisdom and knowledge and experiences, it's never ending. The desire to know and to grow. And our origin. Now, some people believe that there's no spirit, that we're dust. And some people believe that spirit and soul are the same thing. And some people just believe in spirit. And whatever you believe in is fine. It's what you believe in. I believe that there is spirit. I go with what's in Hebrews in the Bible. We have our physical body that we're separate from. And then we have our spiritual body, which is our origin, that's our spirit. That is our direct communication with God, consciousness. That's equivalent. And then we have our soul. And our soul is about our interactions in the earth, on the earth plane. It is how we look at ourselves, how we look at others, how we develop relationships. It's our ego. Our ego is in there. And it's also what becomes the Akashic records. So when we go to the other side, do we have access to the Akashic records? Yeah, because it's all energy, and yeah, it's a part of us. But does it stay with us? It does go to this kind of library. It's all imprinting, and it does go to this other aspect of this other place. And we can call upon it and we draw upon it. And when we choose to come out of consciousness to reincarnate, we draw upon what we want to align with or have memory of or be influenced by from the stream of line that is the Akashic records, according to the spirit that we are that's getting ready to incarnate. So the best way to explain this, because people are like, what? So there was a movie, and I can't remember the name of the movie, but it was this woman, it was like an expo for love and new age and, all these, wonderful things. And this woman was lecturing and she was talking about Cleopatra, excuse me. And she goes, so in this other life, I was Cleopatra. And this woman stands up in the audience. She goes, you weren't. I was Cleopatra. And so these two women start arguing at this convention of love, right? And then they start coming through the audience and down the stage to go after each other because they wanted to have it out because, each one says that they were Cleopatra and then the scene pans out. But the humor is so funny. But the reality is, in terms of reincarnation, they both are right. They both could be right. They both could have been Cleopatra. They could have been aspects in the same body. And then when they went to the other side, they went off. It's just like, I've talked to people that their husband has died and they say, I don't really have a need to see my husband. I love him, but I feel like our karma was done. Will I see him? I don't really have the need to. I love him and I'll always love him. And it's okay if I see him, but I don't really have that pressure or that desire. And do you want to know if that was okay? Was something wrong with her because she had a friend who lost her husband and all she thought about was her husband. Well, we grieve and heal differently. And our relationships are different. Some relationships are very codependent or enabling. And so we're going to live with the needs that we haven't resolved in our own personal growth for identification and strength. And, so we hold on to these attachments. And whatever it is, it's all right. It's part of the journey. That's a big thing on the other side. There is no judgment. There is no death. There is no punishment. It's all about learning. All about learning. Even when someone is violent with you and changes your outlook on life so you can't go out, you can't do anything because you live with such terror, you work it out, you find the understanding because life is about the wisdom and the love and the knowledge. And we're not punished. There's no punishment for that. There's just not. We evolve. We absolutely evolve. So whether you miss your husband or your loved one or not, it's okay. And I know people that say, well, I just feel like we're done. We don't need to see each other. They've gotten to this point of understanding consciousness in a certain way, and they just go, I'm good to let go. I'm good to go on because there's so many other things I don't understand and I'd like to know. And so that's what happens for them. But if someone generally wants to see their loved one on the other side when they go over there, they will see them. I have had way too many years and way too many people tell me about when they get to the other side that who they see are the people that were their family or their friends, and animals, pets. You will see pets. You will be reunited with your pets. Absolutely. That's a big one all the time. And for the people that fear death, what is it you really fear? If you fear punishment, you don't get that. If you fear that you will be, isolated and alone and unloved, well, there are near-death experiences that are what we consider going to hell. But that still is for a process that allows us to learn, so we do find the other side, and we do find the light, and we do find the love. That's not a place that you remain in. It's a place of learning. So any fear someone has about the death experience, there's no death. There is on the other side the most deepest, tremendous amount of love that you will ever experience.
Yeah, well, that was incredible. Thank you so much for sharing. And yeah, I just think what you've been through is something no person should go through.
Here's the thing. We are given discernment. And and our ego, oh my gosh, that could just be that could get us into trouble. I kind of got involved with some people that were kind of questionable reputations with the choices that they made.
If you are enjoying this, please subscribe. We've got some great guests lined up for you.
And I saw this and I knew it. And I thought, they need me. They need me to help them see that their choices aren't maybe the best for other people because they're doing things that are not okay. So I will help them learn. No, bad choice. I was very young, and I thought, they're causing harm to people. They're stealing, and they're involved with drugs, and well, that's their choice, and that's their journey, and that's their lesson. And who am I to go to a group of people and say, you need to stop doing this? This is right. No, my discernment had said, walk away, go find people that are okay to be with. And I thought, no, they need my help. Well, that's just ego. That's just, it took me to a place, where I became a victim of violence with these people because they didn't want to hear what I was saying. They didn't want me to judge them. They didn't want it to be brought up that if they take something from another person, that person goes through loss and mourning. And so I was a victim of violence with this group and ridicule. And I was drugged by one of them. And as I was passing out, I heard one of my guides say, we're taking you to the other side so you know you're not your body. Well, I already knew that, but I had forgotten it. But really what it was is, if something's unpleasant, use your discernment and go another direction. Don't feel like you're going to be like, someone else's Florence Nightingale or, crusader to come in and say, I will save you, I will help you change. It's not going to happen. They are doing what they're doing. You have to change. You have to go, this is not right for me, and walk away. And I just didn't, because, I just was in my ego and I was stubborn. So I don't think I learned. I so learned, boy, when I came back after that, wow, did I change? Did I work on just the shame and the ridicule? And how could I have let this happen to me? How unconscious was I? And do I know so much that I don't have to keep learning, that I can put aside what I need to know to take care of someone else and teach them? No, we present information and someone can take it or leave it. That's really what teaching and education is about. You present the information and it's, up to the individual. And I had gotten a little muddled as to what the truth of that was. And so I don't think it helped me grow faster, but boy, did I get a lesson that changed my life and the choices that I made after that. I sure never made that mistake again. It was like if something wasn't right for me, or if a group of people wasn't right for me, it was like I'm gone. I'm out of here. It's not my leg, as someone else said, because this is again something that a lot of people go through. They get damaged or hurt by who they go after to try to get to know or to have in their life, and it's just not going to work for all sorts of reasons. But trying to change someone is like the wrong way. So does that make sense?
Yeah, I think the key is discernment because,
Yes.
there are a lot of people that are victims of abuse, even as adults, and they can't leave because they think they're going to somehow fix the other person or love them enough that the other person will see that they're worthy. And the loyalty aspect is there too. And at some stage you've got to realize that they are not willing to change. And I think the big key here is that people think if I have to do more work by changing and I don't want to do more work, I'm already doing too much. But actually, you're doing less work. You're not doing work for two. You're just doing work for one, which is yourself.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, it's crazy. I was wondering, Rumi, the poet, did he
Sorry.
experience true love? Hmm.
Oh, I certainly know. So to ask about Rumi means you read Rumi, and I read Rumi. So here's my question for you. What makes you keep reading Rumi? After you've read one or two or three Rumi, what keeps you going back? What do you get out of what you read?
Rumi reminds me of a sense of longing for home.
Yeah. And to have that longing, does it mean that you can long for it because you know it and you've been there?
Yes, yes,
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that that's true for Rumi and that's true for you. Because otherwise it wouldn't be your question, and it wouldn't be who you would read.
yeah,
you know, but you're there with him because you feel it. You feel that deep connection. I have this word I love. I bring it up whenever I can. It's called Yugen, Yugen. It's a Japanese word, and it means the magnificence of nature beyond words.
oh,
Isn't that such a powerful statement? And I think that Rumi's writing brings us to that place and to that knowing. He brings us to our realization of origin. He talks about, I'll meet you there, you
yeah,
know?
yeah.
And it's like, if we didn't know what that was, we'd go, I don't want to sit in the grass. It's buggy. We'd find something that we'd go, yeah, no, I don't think so.
You mentioned karma and reincarnation. I just want to ask you, and maybe it's both. Some people say, I must have done something bad in my last life for me to suffer in this life. But I've come to the understanding that people continue where they left off. So if you were struggling in the last life, you're just going to carry on with that consciousness that you had then, and until you've kind of grown from it and learned from it. Or is it both? Do people also choose one side and say, okay, I've done that. Let me do the bad side now or the good side now?
I think it's a combination. And I think that when I said I must have been Attila the Hun, it's kind of tongue in cheek, because some people look at when they talk about Christ saying, forgive them, they know not what they do, but that all that happened to him to take away our sins, but isn't that also something that at some point we all go through to learn the difference between the human condition and consciousness, the existence of consciousness? And so I think that we all from time to time will go through all these aspects that seem so difficult, or to go, how could someone do that? Why did someone do this? I think that we all experience that at some point in some life. That's interesting about, do we go on from where we left off? I don't know. Because what I do believe is that if we're this drop of water, when we incarnate, we don't incarnate with that whole drop of water that we were as the person in the body. We have aspects of it. It's like if you're a cherry pie and you want to reincarnate, you'll take maybe 3/4 of the pie, half the pie, a piece of the pie, and then you're going to blend with like a blueberry pie, or, and then you have a mixed berry pie. And that's the whole. And that's what goes down to earth, So it's, and those other berries were from other lives that were in a body that you were in, but that's because we're all one. It's like when we bully another person, we harm ourselves. And when we harm ourselves, we harm another person. It's because we are ultimately one. So in terms of what kind of ride we have when we incarnate, what we come in with, I think your question is really profound and it's really interesting. And I think that, probably you're right. It sounds like, because we go back and we go, well, what didn't we learn? Well, there's always a lot. We always see a whole lot of things that we didn't learn. So our challenge for ourselves at some point might be, I didn't quite get this, and I want to have understanding of this. So I'm going to go back with this. And that's where I left off. So I think that sounds like, like that's, I would agree with that. I would say, yeah, this sounds like that makes sense to me.
Yeah. Well, I'm thinking like some people, when we're born with a birthmark, it's because of how you died, or some people have got fear of water, for example, and they drowned in a past life. So that memory is
Yes.
still lodged in the soul that's now in the DNA. And so therefore they're carrying that with them. But like you say, I also think that they do mix. Like you're not just one, you're not this body as a whole and then going into the next body. We're part of a bigger consciousness. So yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I think you brought up a really good point. That's really true about fear. I've worked with so many people that come to me with fears, and so often it's about a past life. So often. I had this guy in construction come to me. This is a long time ago. And he was like, I'm all of a sudden afraid. And I'm like, okay, let's talk about this. And he's like, I've been on this job for this high-rise building. I was in the city. And he said, I've been doing great with it. I've never had trouble with heights. And he said, all of a sudden, I am afraid every single day. And what it came down to, what finally came out, was that he started being afraid when this other guy started working the construction job with him. And they were up on these big steel whatevers doing whatever. And it turned out that they had another life where they were in love with the same woman. And they were on the roof of a building because one was married to this woman and one was the lover. And they were in the bedroom, making love, and the husband comes home early. So he climbs up on the roof. And the man comes in and he sees that his wife is in bed in the middle of the afternoon, and he finds like trousers on the floor of the bedroom. And he goes up on the roof and they start fighting. Well, they fall off the roof and they die. He has no memory. This is like a construction worker. He loves his beer and baseball and his kids and all these family things and reincarnation. What? What's that? Let's go to the races. Let's go, look at cars. But it was like this was so debilitating to him. And that it was like he's someone that never had fears. He's like, I don't get it. This isn't who I am. What is this? I can't cope. I'm like shaking sometimes. And I was like, well, let's identify, when did you start shaking? Well, when this guy comes near me, it's the guy that killed him. So he went through that and goes off, and I don't hear from him again until maybe 2 months later. And he said, I have been so confident in my life. The next time I went to work, I was fine. I understood, and I realized I didn't have to be anything about this man because it was over. We were different people. These were aspects of who we are now. And he said, I even like the guy. He's a nice guy. So he got past his fear and got to know this guy, and they actually became friends. And they probably had that, I don't know if they ever talked about it or not, but they probably had this soul connection that we often have with people. We know our tribe sometimes, when we allow ourselves to get in touch with it. Yeah. So I think that's really true. We have things that we go through that are from our last life, and then our last life with other people.
Yeah. Well, like you say, with him making friends with that guy again, a lot of the time, if you can separate who you are now from who you were then, and you've made logical sense out of it, you don't have to keep carrying the trauma. That's now over. It's reconciled.
Yeah.
Oh, that was amazing. Thank you so much for sharing.
You're so much fun. This was great.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Thank you. Where can people get hold of you if they want to connect?
I have had trouble with not getting my emails. So if some people have tried to get hold of me and I don't get them on time, I get a lot of correspondence. And so if you send something to me and you don't hear from me, just please try it again. I have a website, altheawatsonpsychic.com. And just be persistent in trying to contact me. I have to fix the scheduling. It's not working on my website. So that's a problem that I have to take care of. I've just been really busy. And then once a month, I have been recently, I just relocated. So I'm in Arkansas now. I'm in Little Rock, Arkansas. And what are the dates? Let's see. November 8th and December 13th, I will be in a store called Three Hidden Gems on Kavanaugh Boulevard in Little Rock, Arkansas. And I will be conducting chakra balancing. I do 20-minute sessions with people. And then if you come in and want a full session or some other work, past life regression, healing, then we can make an appointment and you can come to my office. And so that's another way to get a hold of me.
Yeah, I will post all those details below in the description. And then before we go, do you have a message for our viewers?
I'm sorry, a what?
A message for our viewers.
Oh, message for the viewers. Love. Everything is about love. And some people say, well, how do I fund that? Sometimes if we go to a memory that has been so important to us. It's a human memory, it's on the human earth plane. Let's start there and just relive that and recall it. Going out into nature and feeling the love that is expressed through nature is what can align us with consciousness. Whether it's looking at a brook or a leaf or seeing just the awesome beauty of crystals or rocks or birds flying or just the magnificence of what this world is, and call upon your spirit and say, I ask of myself, of the origin of myself, to bring up my connection to God consciousness, to consciousness, so I can experience this deep love. I surrender to this. And if you start your day saying, I am so grateful, excuse me, lead me and guide me with every breath, with every step, in my waking moments and my sleeping moments. Keep me protected in the love of consciousness so that I may grow. If you commit to that every day, what you will have rise up in you, what you will have come into your life is exactly the love that we all, I believe, are looking